So today's video, it's a video I came by on TikTok that was captioned above the video: poor white people in South Africa speak out and voice their opinion. I'm not quite sure, but I think this was a cutout from a documentary that got reposted on TikTok. Let me tell you, this was an interesting watch. So without further ado, let's get into it.
South Africa's changing social dynamic is not good for everyone. These Afrikaners, who enjoyed social and economic privilege during apartheid, are now near the bottom of the pile.
We are fighting for our language, we are fighting for jobs. So my feeling is that we are only fighting all the time to survive.
This woman legit stood in front of the camera and said her feeling is that they are only fighting all the time. All the time, she says. These are the descendants of a group of people that were in power for 500 plus years in South Africa. They were the ones doing the colonizing and the apartheid and the beating of African black people and the arrow warding and all of the ish that went down during colonization and in apartheid South Africa, right? They got all the jobs, they got all the privilege, they got everything they wanted, they were very comfortable. The change came when? 1994. 30 years ago. 1994, apartheid ended and a new government came in, right? Black people started having power in society. Equality became a thing. I mean, if we really want to talk about it, it's still not equal now, even in 2024. But that's when equality started coming into the South African system. So starting from 1994, they had to now start competing, right? They had to compete with black people before they get everything that they wanted in life just because of their whiteness. So because now they have to compete fairly and they are failing at competing fairly, they think literally that they are being oppressed, when in fact they were the ones who left their home in Europe, traveled to other people's lands to go invade, subjugate, oppress, enslave, colonize, beat them on the street, arrow them. But now see how she's very carefully wording it to make it seem like they were the ones who were actually experiencing these things. And can we talk about that smile she has plastered on her face? See how she's smiling from ear to ear. That smile says a lot, because there is no way in hell you would be smiling like that if truly you and your people are the oppressed and not the oppressor. Someone who's being treated unfairly, as they would want us to believe that they are being treated unfairly, won't be smiling like that. And then she said they are fighting for their language, Afrikaans. From what I understand, Afrikaans is still very well spoken in South Africa. It's even one of the official languages, I believe. And African people, black South Africans, are meant to learn that language. The language is not dying. As a matter of fact, they are forcing it on people.
Thousands of white South Africans rely on charity to live. Betsy Dreyer has been running this community centre for 8 years, and she's almost run off her feet.
I think there must be much more job opportunities for the people like my people here, lots more. And that we must be aware that they mustn't be discriminating against them. It seems just to me that the thing is not in balance anymore.
Things are not in balance anymore. You literally can't make this ish up. The irony. Do you know how crazy it is for me to be hearing them talk about balance? That literally translates to, we are no longer in control of all the power, in control of all the resources. We are no longer the ones having all the jobs and having all the good things life to offer. So things are not in balance anymore. When we were the only ones enjoying, things were perfect. When we did not have to compete with anybody, we just get each because we are white. Things were great. I love that. That's balance. Can we go back to that, please? That's literally what she's saying. This is literally the white South African version of MAGA. That's what that means. That's the translation, not her talking about discrimination. Can you imagine how hypocritical that statement is? And the irony in it coming from her. That is insane. How about you and your people pick yourselves up by the bootstrap? Yeah, I'm going there. I'm telling them exactly what they like to tell black people, okay? Maybe, just maybe, if they stop having a victim mentality, they won't be poor. She said, in quotes, I think there must, she said, more job opportunities for her people. There must be. Why? Because they are white? I thought when we were giving our jobs, we look out for qualification, education. Do these people fit the requirements, have the requirements, the skills, the talents for these jobs? That's what employers look out for. You can tell this person is still living daily, reminiscing on the past, where they just get to reap all the benefits and enjoy all the good things, riches, comfort, all that good stuff, just because they are white. And that's what she's still asking for. If you pay close attention to her statements, how she phrased her words. I am not sorry to break it to her and the rest of them that think this way, that is 2024. And the time where people just get opportunities and all the good things life has to offer just because they are white is in the past. Can we move on? It's 2024. I know you people really want to go back, but forward ever. Amen.
Kiewit Wolfert was a public servant when Whites ran South Africa. Now he and his wife Santa, who was also retrenched from a government job, have barely a thread left of their old lives. Only their creativity is keeping them going. In part, they blame government policies which give black people priority in employment, set black quotas and favour black-owned companies.
I don't know really that much about the racism, but I was the first one to go out, and then the others just followed.
Why do you think you were chosen to be retrenched?
I think they tell us we are whites. They don't give us work, so they give it to other people, other races.
And that's what happens when they are trying to create an equal society. One way or another, the disparity would have to be fixed, meaning some people would have to go. It's unfortunate, but what needs to be done has to be done. I mean, how else were they supposed to do it in the new era of equality that South Africa was stepping into? Were they supposed to wait for people to naturally grow old and die first before they can really step into the era of equality? Because if they did that, a lot of other non-white South Africans who should have gotten a real job, at least for once in their lifetime, would have grown old and died waiting for you people to grow old and die or retire first so these positions can be naturally or organically open and free for them to naturally, organically come in. It was an era of equality. Equality had to be implemented. It is what it is. There was no other way around it. And also, when you think about how a lot of white people got jobs just because they were white, it would not be too much of a stretch to say that I'm sure that there were a good number of white people who were just occupying positions that they did not even deserve. Because remember, back then during apartheid, these people just got these jobs because they were white. They were flourishing in society because of their whiteness. So when apartheid happened and changes had to be made, all the people, the mediocres, is that even a word? All the people who weren't qualified, who were just there because they were white, I'm sure they had to go. I'm sure they had to go so they could bring in more qualified people. And this is another thing that I feel like white people don't pay attention to, is how their system of favoritism, the system of white supremacy, actually makes them mediocre people. Because these systems makes these people just comfortable in their whiteness and make them believe that, oh, because you are white, you can get anything you want. You can, you know, the world is your oyster. So they basically, within this period of time, historically, especially the everyday white people, they just got comfortable in that whiteness, and in their mind is going to be a card that they would forever have in their pocket. And that basically came back to bite them in the ass, because during all this while they were basking in their whiteness and having everything handed to them just because they were white, African black people, colored people, and them other people that were in South Africa were doubling up on everything that they have just so they can have a fighting chance. They were putting more effort into making sure, okay, they have all their education, they getting masters and this, that, and the third, and improving their skill. Other people were improving on themselves, constantly improving on themselves, because they understood that it's a tough world. And as a non-white person, you have to be 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times better than an average white person for you to get the same advantages, enjoy the same advantages that they get to enjoy just because they are white. So what this creates basically is that you now have a group of people who are just like mediocre, and a group of people who, because they understand what the life is like, they try to beat the situation that was handed to them, the cards that were handed to them, by improving on themselves. Right, so they improved on themselves so much that they were now so better than these mediocre white people. So when the tables turned, basically, the mediocres had to go and get replaced by the people that have been improving on themselves. And I think that's something that really affects white people. But because they are basking in white supremacy, they don't see it. They don't see how them operating within a system where things are made to just fall on their laps because they are white, and how this system makes it so they don't compete with other people, makes them mediocre, and in turn makes other groups of people better than them. They don't see how racism negatively affects them. They don't see how white supremacy negatively affects them. The mistake the everyday white person makes is think that they are really on the same level of the affluent white people. That's one mistake that they make. They are white people who were not let go, either because they have more money and connection, or hell, maybe they are even the owners of the business, the companies, or they were just more educated. They are from affluent families, right?
We don't have a chance. You can go and look for a job. They tell you, they phone you back, and you never heard again from them.
Millions of black South Africans still live in squatter camps. 1/3 of the population has no electricity. Running water and housing are limited. This was once an exclusively black domain. But as new middle-class blacks move into the wealthy white suburbs, the poor whites are joining poor blacks in poverty.
There's a lot of people struggling, but it's ons beurt. The blacks always had to struggle.
See the way he just said that, like the blacks always had to struggle. So struggling is like a black people thing. He can't believe he's struggling now. It's hard for him to wrap his brain around it. The blacks always had to struggle.
Johan Devenaher lost his legs last year when he says he was pushed from a train. Now he can't get work. He gets a tiny pension, but is forced to make up the difference collecting cans for recycling. Home is a squatter camp with 14 others, white and black. It's a big change from his once relatively comfortable life during apartheid.
We had meat, we had money, there was no struggling. We didn't have problems. It was lekker, it was nice. Everything was sharp. Now times are changing. You know what's happening.
What is changing is we are now seeing equality. This is what equality looks like. As if anybody deserves to be poor. Can we talk about that part of the conversation? Like, who is supposed to be poor? Who? Literally, no one is supposed to be poor. But some people had to be poor for 400, 500 plus years. And now they are only experiencing poverty for like 30 years now. And Madame earlier was talking about how she feels like they've been fighting always. They've been always fighting. And hell, we are not at 100% equality yet, even in South Africa, if we want to keep it 100. There is still like disparities going on in how things are run and how, you know, black people get mistreated and sometimes don't even get paid their labor's worth. Can we talk about how lands, over 70% of the lands, I believe, lands that they stole from indigenous South Africans are still in the hands of them folks. They didn't return them back. Because if we really want to talk about equality, there's a lot of things that they will have to give back and let everybody literally go back to an even playing field. If it looks like this now and South Africa is not at a 100% equality level, imagine how it will look if, you know, South Africa gets to a 100% equality level.
Four and a half million white South Africans make up about 10% of the population. Most whites are Afrikaners, many from rural areas, and they're said to be less entrepreneurial than British South Africans, partly because of their previously protected existence in the lower levels of the public service. It's the Afrikaners who are the worst affected by the government's determination to make the workforce better reflect the population. Many are now being forced to rely on soup kitchens to survive. White unemployment has risen by almost 200% in 5 years. The trade union Solidarity is helping to feed the most desperate in the white population.
We think, unfortunately, the situation is that the current government that we had has in the past said they fought for a non-racial society free of racial discrimination. And what we see now is the same kind of system that we had in the past. It's just being implemented by other people, and it is a racially driven society we see more and more.
First of all, that's a big lie. Yeah, I said it. That's a big lie. The audacity of this man to say, you know, is the same kind of system as the past. Like, no, you are not liking what's going on right now in South Africa with what's happened in the past. It's not even comparable. One is a lie, hammering on that, because what's happening in South Africa now isn't racially driven like them folks want people to believe. This is basically propaganda. This is propaganda. It's the same thing too with what they do with how old, you know, they are killing, unaliving white farmers in South Africa. That's propaganda. And I think it's crazy to compare what's happening right now in South Africa as regards to employment, who gets the job and who doesn't, to the past. Because like in the past, not only were people not getting, black people, African people, indigenous of South Africa, not getting jobs just because of their Africanness or their blackness. They were getting beat on the streets. There was literal segregation going on. That's very different. So to compare it is insane. It just tells you like the lack of, the way there's no touch with reality, basically.
Solidarity was formed from the remnants of the Mine Workers Union, which campaigned hard to keep both low-skilled Afrikaners and black people out of the workforce during the apartheid years. Now it's lobbying against affirmative action.
Do you understand how ironic it sounds for white South Africans to complain about a government being racially motivated, considering the history here?
Yeah, well, but from our side, we also see it ironic that a government that fought against racial legislation is now doing exactly the same what they fought against.
This video truly reminds me of the saying, when you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And at this point, I want to ask, where is Elon Musk? He should come and save his people. All of that billions, he can help their life. I'm just saying. They should call on Elon Musk to come save them. Just give them like 500k each. I'm sure if he does that, the money will still not finish. There are not that many. See what Africans are saying in the comments. Why are they not going to Orania? That's a very good question. Someone in the comments said, I need a maid. For context, during apartheid, being a maid was like one of the only jobs, like one of the few jobs that were available for African women to do. So that's the reference here. But this is how they were living though during apartheid South Africa.
And then there's people like you who ask me, why do you love the past so much? I'm going to show you.
What makes it so easy?
Well, I think our husbands spoil us, the majority of women. And we grow up in an easy way. We never have to do anything for ourselves.
Once you've trained your servants, then they work for you and you don't have to do the work yourself. And I think most South Africans are very lazy. I'm one.
I second that too. You go out to work, you come home and everything's ready for you. You get up in the morning, you don't have to do a thing.
The pointed thing here is that the easy life is on the white side of the colour bar, and the hard life, with very few exceptions, is on the dark side.
While black women were, being house help maids, going to their houses to go earn a living, they just had to not care about anything in the world. They don't even have to raise their own kids because African women, black women, were raising their kids for them.
You know what's the strangest part? People like that calling me lazy. In the life of a black man, regardless of how hard he works for his family, he will always be reduced to this. While the life of a white man,
for white workers in the industry, wages are high, around $2,000 a year, and rents are cheap, often only £6 a month. White workers resist the promotion of Africans to skilled work. As foreign investment grows, attracted by raw materials, a growing market and cheap labour, so the stock exchange grows. In this masculine white society, the preoccupation is money.
And the life of a black woman revolved around taking care of her husband, her children, and then taking care of you, your husband, and your children. The same woman that birthed the likes of you wants to sit down with me and discuss feminism. Meanwhile, the structures of oppression has never been the same. For us women, there's a gap.
Because the women have such an easy life. Very easy life. I mean, if they don't go out to business, they've got more time on their hands to get into more mischief, which you must admit is lots of fun.
People like me had to build from scratch, while others were benefactors of a system that was designed for them. Me, I'm too selfish to help the white man maintain his system with my womb, with my energy. If it was up to me, I swear, you would be working on your backsides, for real, because I would have scattered everything. And that little money you say you earn, you will genuinely earn it. I'll definitely give you a dream come true.
Another comment, they are not poor, they are experiencing what their fathers did to our fathers, and for them it's uncomfortable. And just to be clear, poverty is not something that I would wish on anybody regardless of their race, because that is, nah, that's not something I would do. It's not in my person. It's not fun. I literally would not want anybody to have to live like this, whether white, black, Asian, anybody. It's not something that I enjoy looking at. And I think this is a sentiment that many people feel. But the reason why they are not getting much sympathy, because still when you listen to these people, it's like no lesson was learned. They are still blaming people for the situation that they and their ancestors obviously created. Because look at the way they are phrasing their words. You know, things are not in balance anymore. They must give them more job opportunities. Why should they give your people more job opportunities? Everybody deserve job opportunities. You people are just like, what, 10% of the entire population, but they should give you people more job opportunities. What about the rest people? Everybody should get like equal opportunities, and if you deserve the job, you get it. That is how it's supposed to be. But back to where I was going before, they don't see that this particular situation that they find themselves in is one that they crafted out by themselves. They created this reality for themselves, literally, if we really want to talk about it. Because things would not look like this for them right now if they had not operated the way they did in the past. How you lay your bed, that's how you will lie on it. They laid this bed and they're lying on it right now. And also still, if you give these people the opportunity with the way they are speaking, they would literally bring back apartheid. Things are not in balance anymore. Bro. Hence why, even though I see these people, I'm like, you know, these are still human beings and this is sad. And I would not want anybody to live like this. But I still can't find myself really feeling sad for them. Why? Because when you listen to these people, they are not saying nobody should live like this. Nobody should be poor. They are saying only we shouldn't. Like, you know, this is something that is good for anybody, right? It still is the sentiment for me. Yeah, I feel bad looking at it. Is sad. But as I'm listening to these people, I'm like, this is how you feel even till now. Like, okay. And I think, you know, the majority of people watching these videos still feel this way. Like, it's a conflicting emotion. Like, looking at them is sad, but still at the same time, you're like, I'm not sad. It's conflicting, but I think you guys get the point. But guys, what are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, I would see you guys in the next one. Bye.